One of the challenges in writing a book about web development is that technology changes so quickly. The Live Preview extension in Visual Studio Code is a prime example. It looks like the software is tremendously popular. The counter is over 13 million. So, just as I was almost done with creating the Photics Web guide, there was another update to Visual Studio Code. The update notes contained another mention of the integrated browser. It is a nice feature as no extension is needed. It's just a standard part of the application. So, which one should you choose? Is Live Preview obsolete? Or is it the better choice? Well, we can test that. Here's one of the projects that's mentioned in the book. The lesson is about fetching data about weather alerts from the National Weather Service. Even though it's a great way to learn, this project is surprisingly small. It's just a single file. The HTML, CSS, and JavaScript were combined into a single document. And when loading up the project by using the Live Preview extension, it works as expected. By pressing the Get Alerts button, a list of the latest weather alerts is shown. When this video was created, there was some crazy weather going on. The sky was unusually hazy, and Apple's weather app looked like someone had nuked Canada. That shows the importance of the lesson. It's a practical exercise to fetch weather alerts, using technology to avoid trouble, to prevent property damage or loss of life. So let's keep it practical. What's the difference with the integrated browser? Well, when loading up the web page using a standard feature now included in Visual Studio Code, the web project just works. Interesting. Both the integrated browser and Live Preview have access to the developer tools. That is a slight difference though. Live Preview stretched across the bottom of the window, while the integrated browser stayed contained inside its frame. I think I prefer the extra space for the developer tools. That's another thing I noticed. The integrated browser didn't automatically split off to one side of the window. Fortunately, that problem was fixed in version 1.128, as there's a new setting. Workbench.browser.newTabPlacement can be given a value of side group, which opens the integrated browser in a split view. Nice. There are slight differences between the two options. Personally, that alone would not be enough to justify using a separate extension. So let's get to the real reason to use the Live Preview extension. It says it right in the description. An extension that hosts a local server for you to preview your web projects. Here's an example of when that matters. In the Bible web app, the JavaScript is in a separate file, and the script tag has a type attribute with a value of module. It's not really necessary to use a module here, but I liked having the variables a bit more isolated. The relevant point is mentioned on the MDN website. It says, unlike classic scripts, module scripts require the use of the cross-origin resource sharing protocol for cross-origin fetching. What? Roughly summarized, it's a security thing. And when trying to load the Bible web app as a local file in a different web browser, such as Safari, it doesn't work. The web page appears, but it doesn't do anything. If you look at the console, there's an error. It says origin null is not allowed by access control allow origin status code 0, which is not exactly the most intuitive error message. If I didn't break this on purpose, there might have been some trouble trying to figure it out. But basically, if you go to the Live Preview link, which runs from a local web server, it just works. See? Isn't that nice? And if you go back to the code, removing the type attribute with a value of module, now the file link works in Safari. So obviously your web project should not yield to weaknesses in your testing environment. If you want to run the JavaScript as a module, then you should be able to do that, which is why I prefer Live Preview. Since it uses a local server, that's a better testing environment. It also means that I don't need to change the book, so that's nice too. There is one more reason why I prefer Live Preview. It's in the name. It's called Live Preview. When using the integrated browser, the changes are not seen instantly. The web page needs to be refreshed in order to see the changes. That can become quite tedious. But with Live Preview, the changes appear as I type them, which is quite nice to see. So if you think you'll want to use a local web server or see your changes happening live, then you might like the Live Preview extension.